So when I was growing up, I loved to play sports. I was super active, and my favorite sport was football. And so everything was going great with my athletics until about high school. And then I started getting injured a lot. I started getting beaten up and bruised. And I really noticed it after my first game my senior year of high school. And I remember Saturday morning after my Friday night game, I was complaining to my mom. My hip hurt, I could barely walk, I couldn't turn my neck. And she said, you should go see the chiropractor. And I had no idea what chiropractic was. All I knew is that I would have tried anything to feel better. And so I went to the chiropractor. I remember getting my first adjustment. And immediately after that adjustment, I just felt this pressure release from my body. I got up off the table, I could stand tall, I was even breathing better. I didn't even know that my breathing was shallow. I was walking normal, I wasn't limping, and I could already turn my head farther. And my chiropractor told me that all the Fort Atkinson student athletes, they got adjusted every Saturday after their Friday night football games. And they were our rival town. So nobody was going to be getting a competitive advantage on me. So I decided I'm getting adjusted every Saturday after my games. And what I noticed was that my recovery time improved dramatically. So it would take me 4 or 5 days to feel better after my games, and it was only taking 2 or 3 days, and my body was feeling amazing. And it was the only year that I stayed completely injury-free. And I owe it to my chiropractic care. And then I decided that's why I wanted to become a chiropractor, so that I could help other athletes the same way that I'd been helped. And fast forward a couple of years later to my first year at chiropractic school, I was sitting in a seminar, kind of like this, except for a little bit bigger. And I remember hearing the truth about chiropractic for the first time. And what I realized there, that chiropractic was so much bigger than just helping people with neck pain or back pain, but it really had the power to help people prevent and reverse chronic diseases and really help them reach their full God-given health potential. And I knew that chiropractic was no longer just a cool profession, but it became my mission. And I knew that it was my purpose to help as many kids and families to maximize their health, minimize the risks of deadly diseases without having to take dangerous drugs or doing surgeries. And so that absolutely relates to what we're going to be talking about tonight, because diabetes, blood sugar problems, this is a degenerative disease. These are lifestyle diseases that we have control over and that we can help with. And so tonight's really not just about taking home a head full of good information. It's really a call to action. Some of the stuff you're going to learn tonight is going to be brand new. It's going to blow your mind. Some of it's going to be things that maybe you heard before that you need to hear again. So everybody turn to your neighbor and tell them, you need to take action. You need to take action, absolutely. Not me though, just you. Absolutely. So research shows that people that take notes, people that respond and actively engage, they retain 90% more of the information. And when you retain more, you're going to apply more of it into your life. So what are we going to learn tonight? Well, first we're going to look at the state of the union. We're going to look at some of the statistics and how we're really doing with this disease. We're also going to be looking at deeper into what is diabetes so we can understand it on a higher level. And we're going to look at the current medical approaches and some of the treatments and management recommendations. And then the most important part, we're going to be giving you the ammunition to conquer the blood sugar battle. So we're going to be going over nutrition, fitness. We're going to be going over how chiropractic absolutely helps balance your blood sugars as well. That's really the nuts and the bolts of it that we're going to be taking action on. So let's get right into it. You guys ready to go? If you're ready, say ready. Ready. All right. So the numbers are rising very quickly, exponentially almost. In the 1950s, there was only about 1.5 million diabetics. By the 1980s, that grew to 5.5 million. Just in 2014, there was almost 22 million diabetics. And it's 2017 now, that number is just growing higher and higher. And one of the biggest trend lines and one of the biggest causes is our rates of obesity. There's a new term that's being used the last few years. It's called diabesity. Anybody heard of diabesity? So basically, the same things that cause people to be obese are the same things that are causing diabetes. Here's 1994 statistics. You see these light blue states right here. These are states that had a percentage of 10 to 14% of the adults in that state were obese. The blue ones were the worst, 15 to 19%. So obese being 30 pounds overweight or more, or a higher than 30 BMI. 21 years later, fast forward to 2015, this green color right here, this is every single state has at least this color. Remember before it was about 10 to 14%. Every single state is between at least 20 to 25%. And those are the best ones. Most of the country is between 30 and 35%, where these 4 states right here in 2015, over 35% of the adult population is now obese. So we have a huge problem. And when we look at this, the same things that were causing, that's causing obesity is causing diabetes, and this is not just affecting adults. They used to call type 1 diabetes juvenile onset, and they used to call type 2 diabetes adult onset. Well, they can't even call it that anymore because there's so many kids that are getting type 2 diabetes. And what is this from? Well, it's absolutely from the processed foods and the horrible foods that we're feeding our kids every day. But they're taking gym class out of the schools. They're not playing at recess anymore. Subluxation. Nobody's talking about it, but the kids at 8 years old, they have their cell phones, their tablets, they're constantly with their head down, and that's interfering with their body to heal, leading to all sorts of degenerative diseases, one of them being diabetes. Where 15 years ago, only 3% of kids diagnosed with diabetes was type 2. Because a lot of it was type 1. It wasn't happening very often, but only 3% was type 2. Now, 50% of kids being diagnosed with diabetes is from type 2. So we're lifestyling our kids to death. So we've got to do something about this. Well, not only is it destroying our health and our longevity and the quality of our life, it's bankrupting our families. Take a look. 1 in 5 of all healthcare dollars is now spent on either trying to prevent or treating diabetes. Get this, if you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at age 50, that will cost you over $173,000 in healthcare costs by the time that you pass away. If you're diagnosed at age 30, it's going to cost you over $305,000. So sometimes people say to me, Dr. Jake, you know, chiropractic care is expensive. Or buying organic food, I mean, that's just too expensive. Or, you know, I mean, I just can't buy this supplementation because that is expensive. But you have to ask yourself, compared to what? Because you will pay for your health. You will pay for it, and we all will. I mean, every single one of us will pay for our health. And here's the thing, you have the choice. You can pay a little bit more for your health now for investing in, you know, chiropractic supplements, exercising your body, and be healthy and enjoy your life. Or you can pay for sickness and disease years down the road and be miserable and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to correct it later. So compared to not doing anything, it might be expensive, but compared to getting sick, you're at the very minimum saving yourself tens of thousands of dollars. And that's a mindset shift. That's just a different way of thinking about it, because when you're talking about health or doing something for your health, it's never really a cost. When you do something for your health, it's always an investment because you're getting a multiple return in quality, and taking care of your health is the best financial decision that you could possibly do for you and your family right now. So when you look at it like that, you are an investment. And why would you do that? Not just for money, but you're worth taking care of. God put you on this planet for a purpose, and you need to invest in yourself so you can do all the things that you've been called to do. And that's what tonight's all about. So let's go through diabetes. Let's understand this on a higher level tonight. Type 2 diabetes, 90% of all cases of diabetes are type 2. And then you got type 1 diabetes, where this is called insulin dependent. It's a little bit more rare. It's not quite as common, but this is an autoimmune disorder. Potential causes. One of them, subluxation. I'm getting a little bit of feedback up here, Chris. Subluxation is absolutely one of the causes. Again, not talked about very much. Damage to the nerve system is going to affect how your body is healing. Also, other potential causes: low vitamin D levels, toxicity, inadequate gut flora. So your microbiome. These are all three potential causes of type 1 diabetes. Now, this is one, even though this one's harder to correct. It's harder, some people say this is an incurable disease. Well, even type 1 responds very, very well to major lifestyle choices. And where we've seen people either completely reverse it sometimes, but at the very least, really reduce the amount of insulin that is required. So even with type 1, everything we're talking about tonight is going to absolutely relate. Type 2, 90% of that. We're going to dive into that and understanding it better on the next slide. Type 3 diabetes. So this is one that I'd never even heard about before, but in 2005, a new discovery found that not only does the pancreas make and secrete insulin, but your brain secretes insulin as well. And so what is this used for? Well, insulin in the brain promotes the health of healthy brain cells, growth, survival, and function of your brain cells. So raise your hand if you'd ever heard of type 3 diabetes before. Okay, one, maybe two people. So this is definitely some new information. And here's the thing, is it helps the brain function and the brain cells, but you can also, just like type 2 diabetes, you can become insulin resistant in your brain. And that's not good because it can cause plaquing in the neurons, and they call them tangles and plaquing, which leads to mental decline like dementia and Alzheimer's. So type 3 diabetes, insulin resistance in your brain, can lead to Alzheimer's and other mental disorders. So if you guys are note takers, that's definitely one that you might want to take some notes down tonight. But let's understand type 2 because this is the most common and it affects the most people. All right, so you're at dinner and you're loading up on some carbohydrates. Maybe you got some pasta or some bread and maybe some cookies for dessert or some cake. And so you just got loads of carbohydrates. And then your body takes that, breaks it down into glucose. So you got your glucose because your body uses glucose for energy. But in order for your body to use glucose for energy, it's got to get it into the cells. It can't stay in the bloodstream. That'd be really bad if it stays in the bloodstream. But it's got to get it into the cells for energy. So here's what the body does. Brain sends signals for the pancreas to secrete insulin. Insulin then binds to this receptor site right here, which allows this channel to open so the glucose can flow into the cells so it can be used for energy. Now, if there's too much glucose that can't be used turns into what? Turns into fat. Yep, so I mean that can make you fat if you have too much glucose. But we're talking about diabetes right here. So what happens is if you're eating too much carbohydrates all the time, that means your blood sugar levels are going to be constantly high, or your body's just going to be constantly working to get those blood sugars down. So it'll say more insulin, more insulin, more insulin, and your body can keep up with that for a while. Your body's pretty amazing. It can keep up with that for quite a long time, sometimes years, maybe even decades. It could maybe keep up that long. So it increases all that insulin, and then eventually the receptors can burn out or stop listening. And I call this the boy who cried wolf syndrome, where basically if you've had kids or you've had somebody around you that just kept talking too much, and then all of a sudden you just tune them out because you just can't handle it anymore. Well, don't raise your hand back there. Come on now. Well, this can burn out and it stops listening. So when the brain says, well, it's not getting the sugar into the cells, we need more insulin. We need more insulin. And so then your insulin levels rise, and it can do that for a while. And it might even keep your blood sugar levels not too highly elevated, but you have so much insulin now. And even though your blood sugar levels aren't high from the testing, you still have a problem. And it's too high of insulin. Now, along with insulin, you have something called IGF, or insulin-like growth factor. And write that one down, IGF. IGF is used for the proliferation of cells, cell growth and replication. And so when you start having more of that than you should have, too many replicating cells can turn into what? Anybody know? Cancer. Absolutely. So when you have too high of insulin levels, then you are increasing your risk of cancer, even though your body might be able to still keep your blood sugar levels in check for a while. So you really do not want to be eating carbohydrates, or you really don't need carbohydrates, especially doing that repetitively over and over. It'll wear out the cells. So this is essentially type 2 diabetes in a nutshell. So what does that do to your body then? Well, so I got high blood sugar levels. What does that do? Let's take a look. One of them I mentioned already, cancer. It can increase your risk of cancer, but it damages the blood vessels, damages the heart, the eyes, the kidneys. It lowers your immunity and your body's ability to heal. The leading cause of blindness and kidney failure. It damages the nerves. So your nerves control everything in your body. That's why I'll have a lot of patients come in here that are diabetic, and they're having, not only do they have subluxation in their spine, which is affecting the nerves, but their diabetes is compounding that, causing more pain, numbness, tingling as well. That's why you got to work on them together. Right here, this one, heart disease and stroke. Diabetes, I read that almost 50% of diabetics have heart disease as well. So when you have too high of blood sugars, this is absolutely going to increase your risk of heart disease as well. So we're talking about a lot more than just being concerned about, well, if my blood sugars are a little high, this is really the impact that it's making. So what is the testing then? So how do I know if my blood sugar levels are in check? How do I know if I'm in trouble or not? Well, this is the classic test right here. You do your fasting blood glucose test. Now, a normal test would be under 100. And so the measurement is milligrams per deciliter. So you want under 100 milligrams per deciliter is normal. Pre-diabetic is 100 to 125. So if you want to know what these are, I would write these down right here. If you're not sure, you can always just write them down on the page here. Diabetic, you're going to be over 125. This along with checking your A1C are the two most common ones that the doctors will tell you. Check your fasting blood glucose levels. But really, this isn't one of the best tests that you can do. Because remember how I said you can actually have normal blood glucose levels and still have a problem? So really the better test here is getting your fasting insulin levels checked, because ideally you want your fasting insulin levels under 3. If they're between 3 and 5, that's still normal, but ideally you want it under 3, because if your insulin is high and then you're still under 100, the fasting glucose test is going to say you're fine, but you really got a problem that you need to fix, and you're probably already insulin resistant. Everybody say that, insulin resistant. Yep, that's what we're going to be talking about a lot tonight, because your body, your cells become resistant to the insulin. Type 1, you don't produce enough of it. Type 1, you might not be able to make any of it or produce enough. Type 2, you can make plenty of it. You just cannot, it's not getting the job done. You're not responding to it. So this is a better test. So if you go to the doctor, if you're diabetic, or if you ever get questioned about it, if you go get testing done, this is one thing you want to get checked, is your fasting insulin levels, along with the fasting glucose. Also, another test that can give you a good indicator on this is the fasting leptin. These hormones kind of work together. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. Leptin is a fat burning hormone. So those are better tests. Also, the other common one is your A1C levels. So I hear a lot about, whenever diabetics come in, I always hear about the A1C. Now, this is really not that fantastic of a test either, because now theoretically it tests the amount of sugar accumulated on your red blood cells over time. But here's the problem with the A1C test, is that it's based off the assumption that everybody's red blood cells live exactly 90 days or 3 months. But not everybody's do. So if you have red blood cells that live longer, that'll give more time for sugar to accumulate on the red blood cells, and that's going to jack up your A1C levels and make them higher and put you into a level that you might not actually have a problem, and they'll say that your A1C level is too high. On the other side of the story, you could be anemic, and anemic people, typically their red blood cells have a shorter lifespan. So they wouldn't have enough time for the glucose as much time for the glucose to accumulate on there, and they would have maybe an abnormally low A1C level, and they would say that, and they might actually have a problem. So this is why the A1C test is not the best test to get done when looking at if you're actually a diabetic or not. It still has some validity, but you can't rely just on this test, which a lot of people do. So what's going to be better? Well, the better test, we talked about one of them already, the fasting insulin, and the other one is not your fasting glucose, but actually the better one is your post-meal glucose test. So right after you've eaten, you want to see how high your blood sugars spike. So normal levels for that is going to be, if you're normal, it's going to be under 140. If you're pre-diabetic, it's going to be between 140 and 199. Now, if you're diabetic, your post-meal glucose level is going to be over 200. So those are really the two best tests. So if you go to the doctor, if you go get some testing done, those are the ones that you want to check for. But really, if you get all those done, then you're going to have the best picture to really see if you have a problem or not. I don't know about you, but I thought that was some pretty amazing stuff. If everybody just understood those two things, even if they didn't really necessarily get or apply all these 5 essentials that we're going to be talking about tonight and really live a natural lifestyle, even if just people went to the doctor with this much more knowledge, do you think this could save a lot more people's lives? Yeah, absolutely. This is good stuff right here, guys. All right, so that's the testing. You get let's say your A1C levels they're not good. Let's say your fasting blood glucose levels were way too high. You get diagnosed with diabetes. So now our current medical approach or current medical system is going to give you what? A medication or an injection. Yep, absolutely. So let's take a look at one of the most common ones is going to be insulin therapy. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but really, once you become a diabetic, the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, they really never have a goal for you to reverse the disease. They put you on a medication, so this one, insulin therapy, and typically the doses don't go down over time. Typically with insulin therapy, they have to give you more, and then you're more, and then more, until eventually you're on a very, very high level of insulin therapy. And the problem is that when you are getting that into your bloodstream, when you start messing with your hormones in any way unnaturally, even if like a type 1 cannot produce any and they would really need it to stay alive, this still has ramifications down the road. And one of them being a large increased risk of cancer. Also increased risk of other cardiovascular diseases. So when you look at this meta-analysis, so a big, large amount of studies done on diabetes, and you look at the benefit, there really is not shown to be a provable benefit extending a person's life by taking insulin. And there certainly is no benefit from taking insulin and reducing the amount of cardiovascular disease. In fact, the proven risks are there though every time. Even though the benefit is not shown, the risks are certain every time. 19% for people who take insulin therapy extended, they have a 19% risk in all causes of mortality. But get this, right at the bottom, a 43% risk or increase in cardiovascular death by people taking long-term insulin therapy. This is from the British Medical Journal. So, is insulin therapy going to be a last resort for diabetes? Yes or no? What? Yeah, absolutely. With that big of a risk, I think that would be, your last resort as far as, I guess, medication, saying, not your last resort. Your last resort would be, cut off your arm or your leg or something, right? But it's definitely one of the last things that you would want to have to do with those types of risks. So, anybody heard about Avandia and the media on what happened with Avandia? This was a few years back though, but take a look. 1999, this was one of the most popular diabetes medications. And in 2007, New England Journal of Medicine showed that this specific one, which was one of the most popular ones, a 43% increased risk of heart attack, 64% increased higher risk of cardiovascular death overall. And the problem is that over 80,000 people suffered strokes, heart failure, and other complications, killing thousands of people. It took them 10 years to figure this out. Now, there's a lot of other medications on the market today. And this one was a category called I messed this up 50 times today. Thiazolidinedione. So say that one time fast even. So that's the category, and what it does is it increases the sensitivity of your cells, mostly in the liver, increases your sensitivity of the cells to respond to insulin. But these risks are just, astounding. And the other medications right now, some of them in the same category, but there's about 5 or 6 other categories of diabetes medications that have a similar purpose, that maybe they haven't been out as long, but they have the same type of job to try to increase the sensitivity. And so these things are just not safe. And so we have to understand there's so many other better things that you can do to control your blood sugar levels and even reverse diabetes than just taking a medication. And here's another thing that's complicating or making things worse is the nutrition recommendations that they're giving to diabetics today is insane. Because take a look here, they're recommending between 40 and 65 grams of carbohydrates per meal, plus that's not even including snacks. So just in the meals, that's upwards of 200 grams of carbohydrates. You add a few snacks in there, you're probably over 250, 275 grams of carbohydrates. That is a lot of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, they break down and they turn into what? Sugar. They turn into sugar. And so when they turn into sugar, that's going to do the same thing that caused you to get diabetes in the first place. And so this doesn't make any sense. But And then they're telling you low fat diet, low fat diet, low fat diet. And those of you guys have been around for a little while, we know that you need fat to burn fat. And in fact, you need fat to be a healthy person. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next section. Again, the ADA, they have no language, they have no real goal, or really even giving you hope that these things are reversible. But we know type 2 diabetes is completely reversible. And so they get you on a medication, and once you're a diabetic, they put you on a medication. And they say that this is a requirement, you need to be on this medication. But when you get on the medication, then you have to eat carbohydrates. It's a recommendation then, because if you don't eat carbohydrates, they say your blood sugar levels could then go too low. And so then you need the more medication, and it's just a cycle that just repeats itself. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, let's not go on the medication. Let's break the cycle by just eliminating the carbs and get the insulin levels right to begin with. And I want to show you after this slide right here, I want to show you a cool video if I can get it to play right here. But first I wanted to say that diabetes is not a genetic problem. It's not something that just gets passed down. It's a lifestyle thing that we have complete control over. In fact, we have been grown up over the last 50 years, and we've been told that we have to have breads and carbohydrates and grains if we want to be healthy. In fact, it was one of the biggest things they wanted us to eat. But we actually don't need any carbohydrates at all to survive. We need essential fats, as they're called essential fatty acids. There are some fats that we do need. They have essential amino acids, which are our proteins. There's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate or an essential carb. There's no things, because your body can make it from other things. And it does it through a process called gluconeogenesis. Everybody say gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis. Yes, that is a key word, which means your body can make new glucose from things like amino acids, like other fats or triglycerides. It can make glucose from it. So you don't need it, but we've been lied to, and we just are actually way, way better without it because it causes a lot of inflammation. I want to show you this video right here. Oh.
I have the best job in the world. I'm a doctor. No, believe me, that's not why. I'm an obesity doctor. I have the honor of working with a group of people subject to the last widely accepted prejudice, being fat. These people have suffered a lot by the time they see me. Shame, guilt, blame, and outright discrimination. The attitude that many take, including those in healthcare, is that these people are to blame for their situation. If they could just control themselves, they wouldn't be overweight, and they're not motivated to change. Please let me tell you, this is not the case. The blame, if we've got to extend some here, has been with our advice, and it's time we change that. Obesity is a disease. It's not something created by lack of character. It's a hormonal disease, and there are many hormones involved, and one of the main ones is a hormone called insulin. Most obese individuals are resistant to this hormone, insulin. So what does that mean exactly, to be resistant to insulin? Well, insulin resistance is essentially a state of pre-pre type 2 diabetes. Insulin's job is to drive glucose or blood sugar into the cells where it can be used. In a nutshell, when someone is insulin resistant, they are having trouble getting blood sugar where it needs to go into those cells. And it just can't hang out in the blood after we eat, or we would all have a diabetic crisis after every meal. So when someone is resistant to insulin, the body's response to this is to just make more of it. And insulin levels will rise, and for a while, years even, this is going to keep up, and blood sugar levels can remain normal. However, usually it can't keep up forever. And even at those elevated levels of insulin are not enough to keep blood sugar in the normal range. So it starts to rise. That's diabetes. It probably won't surprise you to hear that most of my patients have insulin resistance or diabetes. And if you're sitting there thinking, that's not me, you actually might want to think again, because almost 50% of adult Americans now have diabetes or prediabetes. That is almost 120 million of us. But that's hardly everyone who has issues with insulin, because as I was saying, people have elevated insulin levels due to insulin resistance for years, even decades before the diagnosis of even pre-diabetes is made. Plus, it's been shown that 16 to 25% of normal weight adults are also insulin resistant. So in case you're keeping track, this is a heck of a lot of us. So the trouble with insulin resistance is, if it goes up, we are at great risk for developing type 2 diabetes. But also, insulin makes us hungry. And the food we eat, much more likely to be stored as fat. Insulin is our fat storage hormone. So we can start to see how it's going to be a problem for diseases like obesity and metabolic issues like diabetes. But what if we trace this problem back to the beginning and we just didn't have so much glucose around that insulin needed to deal with? Let's take a look at how that could be. Everything you eat is either a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat. And they all have a very different effect on glucose and therefore insulin levels, as you can see on the graph. So when we eat carbohydrates, our insulin and glucose are going to spike up fast. And with proteins, it looks a lot better. But take a look at what happens when we eat fat. Essentially nothing, a flat line. And this is going to wind up being very important. So now I want to translate that graph for you into a real-world situation. I want you to go back and think about the last time you ate an American version of Chinese food. We all know there's rules associated with this, right? And the first rule is you're going to overeat, because the stop signal doesn't get sent until you are literally busting at the seams. Rule number 2 is in an hour, you're starving. Why? Well, because the rice in that meal caused glucose and insulin to skyrocket, which triggered hunger, fat storage, and cravings. So, if you're insulin resistant to begin with, and your insulin levels are already higher, you really are hungrier all the time. And we have this set up. Eat carbs, your glucose goes up, your insulin goes up, and you have hunger and fat storage. So how do we recommend to these people to eat? Because it seems like that would be really important, and it is. Let's focus just on type 2 diabetes, because the general recommendations are to tell patients with type 2 diabetes to consume 40 to 65 grams of carbohydrates per meal, plus more at snacks. Trust me on this, that's a lot of carbs. And remember what's going to happen to glucose and insulin, blood sugar and insulin, when we eat them? Yes, we are essentially recommending that they eat exactly what's causing their problem. Sound crazy? It really, really is. Because at its root, diabetes is a state of carbohydrate toxicity. We can't get the blood sugar into the cells, and that causes a problem in the short term, but the long-term consequences are even greater. And insulin resistance is essentially a state of carbohydrate intolerance. So why, oh why, do we want to continue to recommend to people to eat them? The American Diabetes Association guidelines specifically state that there is inconclusive evidence to recommend a specific carbohydrate limit. But those guidelines go right on to say what we all know. Carbohydrate intake is the single biggest factor in blood sugar levels and therefore need for medication. These guidelines then go on to say, hey, look, if you're taking certain diabetic medications, you actually have to eat carbs. Otherwise, your blood sugar can go too low. Okay, so let's take a look at the vicious cycle that advice just set up. So it's eat carbs, so you have to take medicine, then you have to eat more carbs so you avoid the side effect of those medications, and around we go. Even worse is that nowhere in the ADA guidelines is the goal of reversing type 2 diabetes. This needs to be changed because type 2 diabetes can be reversed in many, if not most situations, especially if we start early. Not only do we need to let people know this, but we have to start giving them the practical advice so they can do this.
All right. So, type 2 diabetes is reversible. And that's what we're going to be talking about now is how can we reverse that? Well, take a look. This is a pretty cool slide right here. And this isn't something that has to take a very, very long time. This is showing here, this is from Dr. Roy Taylor. And he says that type 2 diabetes can be reversed through diet changes. And this can happen in as little as 1 to 8 weeks, where a dramatic change in diet and diabetics reverse most features within 1 week, but all features of the condition within 8 weeks if they're following a strict guideline. And I want to show you this next slide here, which is pretty cool. And this might be mind-blowing for some people, but it's really something that happens all the time. And this is a case study from one of our Maximized Living offices. In fact, a couple of them, a couple of different offices, but this is just one story, a case study. Guy comes in, 61 years old, with diabetes. He had it for 20 years. So this isn't something that he just recently had or anything. Dealt with type 2 diabetes for 20 years. Comes in, they found vertebral subluxations in his spine and nerve system in several areas. And what they did is they started getting him adjusted, and they started changing his diet through the nutrition plan, which some of the details we're going to walk through in just a minute. And after only 2 months of chiropractic care and changing his diet, went back to his doctor. His medical doctor confirmed that the blood glucose levels had now been normalized, and there was a complete resolution of his diabetes diagnosis. And so, I mean, it's so cool, and I love that because that guy's life is completely changed. But that can be you. That can be, somebody that you know with diabetes who's not even here tonight. And this is completely preventable even if you've had it over a long period of time. So how are we going to do it for you? How are we going to get your blood sugar levels? Well, our Maximized Living clinics, we deliver the 5 essentials. Number 1, just for being here tonight, improving your mindset on how we think about health is a step in the right direction. They say 90% of success is just showing up, and you guys are showing up, and we're changing our mindset on health. Number 2, this is a missing link for a lot of people, is getting your spine adjusted to optimize your nerve system. Number 3, eating a healthy diet. Tonight we're going to go over the advanced plan, some of the details of how you can change your nutrition just like that gentleman did. Exercise, and also avoiding toxins as well. So toxins, one of them, alcohol. This is a sugar. So even though it doesn't look like your typical carbohydrate, alcohol is a sugar, and it will spike your blood sugar as well. So if you're eating perfectly and you're still drinking on a regular basis, it's still going to mess with your blood sugar levels. So this is some real diabetes nutrition, or some real blood sugar nutrition right here. So right here in the middle, higher fat, moderate protein, low carbohydrate, low or no carbohydrate. And everything that I'm talking about tonight, all this nutrition information is coming straight out of this Maximized Living Nutrition Plan book. Now, 80 to 90% of our patients have this in their house. So if there's anything that you want to relate to, you can go back and you can find it into this book right here. So high fat, which is completely opposite of what this low fat, no fat craze has been from starting around the 50s to, I mean, you're still hearing it. It's getting better, but you're still hearing low fat this, low fat that, when really we need a high amount of fat. Remember the chart that she showed in that video? What did it say? Can somebody raise your hand? Tell me what it said the fat did to your blood sugar levels. What did it do? What's that? No. The fat, when you eat fat, there was almost no increase in your blood sugar levels. Who wants to keep their blood sugar level stable? Yeah, absolutely. And you can do that by eating fat and keep your blood sugar levels healthy. Now, protein, that was a lot better. There was a little bit of a upward swing, but the carbohydrates, they just shot the blood sugars through the roof. So not only do we want fat, but we want to be eating most of our calories through the day are going to be from fat. Moderate amount of protein. Want most of your foods coming from whole food sources and as close to the source as possible. The more processes that a food has to go through, the less healthy it's going to be for you. Here's a big one right here. Eliminating all sugars. See the side note? This is including most fruit, because fruit also has a lot of sugar in it. So people love bananas, oranges, pineapples, mangoes. I love them too, but they got nutrients in them. But man, if you got blood sugar levels or you're not at your ideal weight or you're dealing with some sort of chronic disease right now, those got to go because they're just loaded with a real high amount of sugar. Now, when you reached your health goals or you're at your ideal weight or you've reversed diabetes and you want those occasionally, I mean, there's some good nutrients in them. Yes, they're natural, but this is not something that you want to be eating on a regular basis, especially if you're trying to get healthy and you've not reached your goals yet. And this, when you do this, when you eliminate all sugars, it actually is going to eliminate or get rid of your sugar cravings after about 7 to 10 days. Now, those first 3, 4, 5 days, you might not want to be around your loved ones. But after that, it gets a whole lot easier. And this is actually a sustainable way to eat. Bottom line here, this is not a diet. This is not a diet. This isn't something that you do just to lose 10 pounds. This is a lifestyle. We can live like this without carbohydrates. You just got to find the right variation and the right way for you to do it. And it's a lot easier when you think, once you get past or you get used to some of it. So here's one thing that you've got to become if you want to start eating better. You've got to become a better label reader. And you got to read everything. Doesn't take very long. Once you get good at it, you can read a label in 3 seconds. You're like, that's terrible. Oh, that's pretty good, actually. Then you got to double check it just to make sure. But that's what you got to do in the grocery store. Who's been on one of our Shop with the Doc tours or our shopping tours? Yeah, they're amazing. They're probably one of my favorite things that we get to do because that's where you get the muscle memory. You get to really be in the store. And when you can get good foods in your shopping cart and you bring them home, guess what you eat at home? You eat good food. You buy crap, you eat crap. Even the most disciplined person is going to eat bad foods occasionally when they're in the house, believe me. So you buy good stuff, you eat good stuff. Look for minimal ingredients, the less the better. That's a pretty general guideline. If it has a lot of different ingredients in it, more than likely it's going to be more processed. Look for natural ingredients. Here's a good one. If you don't know a ton about it, to be safe, if you can't pronounce a lot of the words on the label, it's probably synthetic or very man-made in a laboratory. Try to buy more foods without any labels. This is your produce section. So you pick up a pepper, ingredients, pepper. That's all that's in there. It just is what it is. So you want to load up your cart with more and more vegetables and greens. It says fruits here, but not really too many fruits. There is a couple of fruits that are very, very good on the advanced plan that are low glycemic index, low sugar. And those are things like Granny Smith apples, of course, lemons and limes, grapefruits, even all berries. So berries, they do have sugar content or carbohydrates, but it's such low glycemic that they're not going to spike your blood sugar levels. So berries are a great form of carbohydrates that's not going to throw your blood sugar levels all out of whack. Read every label. Don't be fooled by pictures and fancy words and healthy choice. Healthy choice. Then you flip it over and you read it and it's like, wow, 500 grams of carbohydrates, bad oil, partially hydrogenated, can't read that word, 50 other ingredients and preservatives in there. Turn it back around, not so healthy of a choice. So don't be fooled by marketing. They do a good job making all natural this. That means nothing. Read the labels. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. A lot of people get fooled by that. So when you become a label reader, you become the expert. And if they have the bad ingredients on them, put it back on the shelf. Don't put it in your cart. Don't worry too much about grams of fat. Even though we say it, even though we teach people this, even though it's in the book and we read it, people have been told something so many times that it still makes them feel bad on the inside. Sometimes they're like, oh, it's like 50 grams of fat in this whole meal right here. You don't want to get too concerned about the fat grams in there. That's something that you're just going to have to live with, because we're going to start increasing our healthy fats over time, and we're not really counting all of our calories. You don't have to be that neurotic about it, because it's really quality over quantity at this point. Don't buy items with these ingredients. So here's some, you want to be a good label reader, these are some key things that you got to be on the lookout for. So if you haven't heard this before, this is a great note-taking section right here. Monosodium glutamate. So anything in a bag or a box or a can, you want to look out for MSG. It's a flavoring, it's highly addictive, but it's an excitatory neurotoxin. It starts messing with your nerve system and your brain. So MSG, now they have some fancy ways of hiding this. So a lot of people know about MSG now. So what they do is they change the name. So here's something that's also going to be MSG. If it says hydrolyzed or autolyzed, basically a lot of times it'll say like hydrolyzed yeast extract or autolyzed yeast extract. That's MSG. They just are trying to make it seem like it's not. I don't know why they do it, but that's just another word for it. So you want to look out for those words. If it's in there, you see it in, I see it in like Doritos and chips and anything that like has like a savory flavor. So look out for that. Your artificial sweeteners, sucralose and aspartame. So some of the brands here like Splenda, NutraSweet, Equal, these were real big for a lot of years. They probably still are. But these artificial sweeteners, aspartame is definitely proven to be the worst. It has over 200 different known negative health consequences. So sucralose, we don't have enough, I haven't heard enough about what the detrimental effects of it are. All I know is it's gone through like 30 plus different chemical reactions in order for them to make it. And so it's a very synthetic thing. And I don't want it to be like Avandia, where 10 years later they're saying, oh yeah, sucralose, it definitely causes cancer. So this is not a natural thing, and it's definitely something that you want to avoid. Avoid the natural sweeteners, and what you want to sweeten with is going to be stevia, erythritol, or xylitol. Stevia, erythritol, or xylitol. Hey Lauren, can we see if we can get the temperature down a little bit lower in here? Cooler. So those are your sweeteners that you want to sweeten with. Any of these other keywords, these are damaged oils at the bottoms. Hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, anything that follows that. Those help stabilize the oils so that they last on the shelf longer. Well, if they last on the shelf longer, guess where else they last longer? In your body, and your body can't digest them. These have been linked to heart disease, linked to cancer. They stay in your body and are very toxic. It takes a while for your body to get them out. Refined flour, additives, coloring, preservatives. This book, this goes through a lot of those as well on what to look out for. So this is a great resource. That way, you become more empowered when you're reading labels. So the 3 basic changes. Number 1, eliminate grains. Oh yeah, I didn't really talk about grains. So grains turn into sugar very, very fast. So even whole grains, whole wheat, even the gooder, even gooder. There's my, it's my good English right there. Even the gooder ones, like steel-cut oats or quinoa or millet, and these are some things that are on the core plan. But again, if you have blood sugar problems, if you have degenerative disease, I mean, these are not things that you're going to want to be eating. You want to eliminate even the healthier grains that have more nutrients in it. Once you've reached your health goals, again, you don't have weight issues, you can have some of that stuff, but if you don't, you're going to want to go all in and eliminate those too. Protein, moderate amount of protein. Good rule of thumb is about 15 to 20 grams of protein per meal. If you've exercised that meal, you can add about another 5 to 10 grams of carbohydrates. That's a general guideline. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but that's a pretty good rule for moderate protein intake. And then fats, you want to load up on fats. You also want to load up on vegetables, but there's not a whole lot of calories in vegetables. So basically, vegetables and fats are going to be but you're going to get the most macronutrients from your fats. So replace the bad fats and remove the bad fats and replace them with good fats.
Question?
Real quick.
Grains to eliminate. What food examples are those?
Grains to eliminate, millet, quinoa, spelt, barley, steel-cut oats, even like your Ezekiel bread, corn, and all the bad ones too, like like white rice and even your brown rice. All grains. Anything grains is gonna, these carbohydrates, if you are not where you need to be health-wise, you have blood sugar issues, those are gonna spike your blood sugar. Yep. So, healthy proteins, healthy fats. These are the things, even before you switch over your produce to organic, and that's important, you want to switch over your proteins first, especially your meats, because they're going to have the highest toxic load if you buy them commercial. So change your meats. So beef, you want 100% grass-fed beef. 100% grass-fed, grass-finished. You want organic. When it comes to chicken or poultry, you want free-range organic. Eggs, like free-range organic or cage-free. Ideally, it'd be great to know if you have a farmer and they let them outside and they eat, bugs and insects and other vegetables and stuff like that. You can tell a big difference between a cage-free egg and a commercial egg just by the brightness of the yolk. So if you don't have a real bright, deep orange yolk, you're not eating the healthiest egg. You can tell a big difference. Quality whey protein. There's a lot of whey proteins out there that are loaded with sugars, additives. Now, good quality whey protein is very, very beneficial, but you want it to come from also 100% grass-fed cows. No hormones, no pesticides, and not fed GMO corn either. Number one, you don't want your cows eating corn. They're not meant to eat corn. And then the corn that they do give them is genetically modified, which is then also sprayed with loads of pesticide and Roundup, and so then you've just got a whole bunch of other issues going on there. So meats are the first thing that you want. Meats and proteins are the things you want to switch over to organic first. Then your fats. So the 3 fats you've got to have in your household that are some of the best healthy fats. Extra virgin olive oil. I've never heard anybody refute that extra virgin olive oil is a super beneficial oil. Coconut oil. Now, this has been given flack for years, and then it's made a huge rise recently in the last 10 years. They even sell it in, not even health food stores anymore, where you can get organic coconut oil. It's one of the healthiest fats on the planet. These medium chain fatty acids, you can cook it at a pretty high heat. It's got great flavor and aroma, and you can use it for a lot of different things. But I just saw an article on Facebook the other day, I think it was coming from the American Heart Association, saying coconut oil is not healthy. It's never been healthy. And so, well, let me give you a little bit of a rundown here and give me 1 extra minute I'm going to spend on this slide here. Because what happened was, I believe it was in the early 1950s, or I think it was 1970 actually. What happened was there was a study that came out that showed that coconut oil led to heart disease. And what they used in the study was hydrogenated coconut oil. So they damaged the fat and then published the research and spread it like wildfire to get everybody to not use coconut oil. And I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing one of the other industries, like the vegetable oil industry, was probably the ones that helped put this stuff together. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty certain that they were the ones, because you hear a lot about canola oil. And the canola industry, although they're the ones that should be getting all the flack, because canola oil is one of the worst oils that you can consume for your health, but they've done a great job marketing that over the years as a health food, and it's really not. So coconut oil is way better, way healthier than canola oil and some of your other vegetable oils. So you want olive oil, you want coconut oil, and butter. Everybody say, butter is back. Butter is back. Grass-fed butter, 100% grass-fed cows, their milk, that butter, if it's organic, that's going to even be better. It's got a great, it's a great healthy fat. You get it from a pure source. People are worried about the cholesterol, but your body makes 90% of your cholesterol is already inside of your body. The amount of dietary cholesterol that you really eat really doesn't even really affect your internal cholesterol levels too much unless you're eating a damaged fat. So grass-fed butter is a great source of fat. Avocados, nuts and seeds, other omega-3 fatty acids. A lot of people will supplement with omega-3s. Got to be from a pure source though. These are great, really anti-inflammatory. Cut out all the vegetable oils, canola oil, safflower oil, a lot of the seed oils. Couple of seed oils that are good, but if you want more detail, you can go back into this book. These are the basics right here. You get this stuff down, even the basics, you got 90% of it. And if you want to get even more of an understanding, you read this book, but we are doing a special workshop less than 4 weeks from now, Monday night, July 17th, 6:30, right here. We're going to be doing our Nutrition 101 workshop. So if you want to become a nutrition expert, like what you guys just got right there, which is some really good stuff, we're going to be spending like a whole hour and 15 minutes, a whole hour and a half just on the foods. So we're going to be breaking down this whole book, the core plan and the advanced plan, and all the negative things and the special focus health topics. So we're really going to be breaking this down. It's on the 17th. We're going to get a sign-up sheet for you guys. You're going to be hearing more about it. We'll get you guys signed up. We'll get you guys signed up for it. So in fact, we'll get a sign-up sheet. I'll get a piece of paper. In fact, I totally forgot to tell you about that. Let's pass one around right now while they're here, so that they can get one of the first spots as well. We'll get a piece of paper. We'll just pass it around. You can put your name down and get a spot reserved. You already get signed up for it. So that's coming up the 17th. But if you read this book first, the more you know, the more you'll be able to learn. The more you know before you come to this workshop, you'll actually get more out of it. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll just go to the workshop first, then read it, you actually do yourself a favor if you read this first. It's only like 100 pages, and there's like 100 healthy recipes in the back. This is maybe one of the most complete nutrition books that I've ever gone through. So it's some good stuff. Also, if you want to not have to think as much, then this book is an even better resource, because this goes into nutrition and it has the 30-day challenge in the back. I mean, it has grocery lists, shopping lists, when to eat, what meals to eat, when time to eat them. So if you don't want to think about it, you can just follow this plan. I know there's a couple of patients going through the challenge right now, which is awesome. So you can look into that book as well. That's part of your resource kit. So nutrition is huge, huge impact on regulating your blood sugar levels. I'm going to be going through 4 power supplements. So as you guys are taking this information here, I'm challenging you guys tonight. I mean, we've all got to make a commitment to improve in at least one area of our health. So, maybe that you got to buckle down on your diet, your nutrition plan. Some of you, I'm gonna challenge you to get on consistent supplementation. Some of you guys, there's some other things that we need to be working on. I really want you to be picking out what are the 1, 2, 3 things that you're really going to be implementing moving forward. So, phytonutrients. Everybody say phytonutrients. So phytonutrients are plant nutrients, and these are not essential nutrients, but most of them are antioxidants, like resveratrol, like beta-carotene, other fancy words. There's about 8 or 10 other phytonutrients that are loaded inside of plants, especially greens. And a great way to get a ton of phytonutrients into your diet is through a greens powder. And the Max Greens has over 30 different vegetables and plants that are loaded up with these phytonutrients, which phytonutrients, many of them play a significant role in reducing those blood sugars, which is awesome. And some of the other phytonutrients actually protect against oxidative stress of pancreatic cells. So your pancreatic cells are the ones that produce and secrete insulin. So that's a great way to not only lower your blood glucose levels, but guard against oxidative stress on your pancreatic cells, which will help a diabetic big time. This bottom one here, decreasing inflammation. 90% of degenerative diseases are because of the root cause is from too much inflammation in the body. So this is going to help out with a lot of other health issues as well. Another power supplement that I want to talk about tonight, and I kind of talked a little bit about this already, is grass-fed whey protein. So grass-fed whey protein has glutathione in it, or it has the building blocks, the amino acids that make up the building blocks of glutathione. And I talked about how you can go to the store and there's a million different protein supplements, but a lot of them are filled with sugar, additives, so you need to know what to look for. And the Maximized Living Protein, it's sweetened with stevia, so it's not going to spike your blood sugar like a lot of them. And it's also low temperature processed, so a lot of the proteins, they're heated up to almost boiling point, which burns off and destroys not only some of the vitamins, but even can start breaking down and destroying some of the proteins too. So it's not as bioavailable. So the Maximized Living Proteins, sweetened with stevia, low temperature process from 100% grass-fed cows. So you're going to get everything that you need for glutathione, and glutathione is the master antioxidant, which really helps a diabetic. It really helps the body heal, and it does help with blood sugars as well. The other reason why I like protein powders is because it's more of a food than it is a supplement. And when you use a protein powder, most people use it, the most common use is for a smoothie. And so not only do you get all the benefits from just the protein itself, but you're usually making something that's really healthy. Like you're putting in your frozen berries, you're putting in like strawberries, you put in coconut milk or almond milk, maybe throw a few greens, you got a good blender, blend that baby up, and then not only do you get all the nutrients from this, but you're eating other healthy foods and it's a complete meal, so that's also going to help your blood sugars. That's why I love protein powder, because it tastes good and it's more like food. Everybody likes eating food, especially food that tastes good and it's healthy for you. So that's the whey protein. Third power supplement I want to talk about tonight is Optimal Omega. Now, you've got your omega-6s and your omega-3s. Both are necessary. Omega-3s get a lot of good attention because they're anti-inflammatory, which is good, because a lot of people are way too inflammatory. But you still need to get these omegas in a proper ratio. About a 2-to-1 ratio is about ideal. About 2-to-1. You want about twice as many omega-6s to omega-3s. Problem is, standard American diet, the way that most Americans eat, their ratios are way unbalanced. About 15-to-1, sometimes 20-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3. So not only do you want a pure source of healthy essential fatty acids, but you want them in the right ratio. And the optimal omega here is already put in that 2-to-1 ratio. So specifically when we're talking about blood sugar levels, the omega-3s that come from the pure fish oils have been shown to help improve glucose tolerance. And what glucose tolerance is how fast your body can get the blood sugars out of the bloodstream and into the cells. So the omegas do a great job of improving your glucose tolerance, which is going to help a diabetic as well. Not to mention, I mean, this is a supplement that almost every single person should be on because it helps with so many other things: brain health, heart health, skin, joints. A lot of my patients, I recommend they take it to reduce inflammation for joint pain, but it helps glucose tolerance as well. Last power supplement that I want to mention tonight is Max Fit. Now, this is kind of like two great supplements in one. Before I get into the blood sugar benefits of it, it has a powerful adaptogenic herb in it called ashwagandha. Everybody say ashwagandha. Ashwagandha. That's just a fun word to say. So ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb to where a lot of the patients that use this, it helps balance you out. So a lot of people that have low mood, low energy, it's going to bring you up closer to equilibrium and kind of bring your mood up and your energy up. If you are stressed out, like you guys stress me out a lot, so I take the Max Fit. It's like you're stressed out or you're anxious a lot, or you're not sleeping good, it'll help mellow you out. So that's why a lot of patients take it, and it's very powerful. But the other thing that has in it is decaffeinated green coffee bean extract. And green coffee bean extract, not only does it help with your metabolism, but it also helps improve healthy blood glucose levels. Especially, you know, the research shows with diet and exercise. Of course, everything's better with diet and exercise, but it's been shown in the studies to work even better along with when you're actually living an active lifestyle. So, and I've also read that the green coffee bean extract, and it doesn't say it on here, but I've also read that it also has a small ability to be an appetite suppressant as green coffee bean extract. So that's why you take it like 30 minutes before your meal. It'll work better if you take it before a meal. So those are 4 power supplements that will definitely help with your blood sugar levels. One other huge thing is exercise. Take a look here. 3,000 individuals, 3,000 obese individuals with impaired glucose tolerance proved that exercise was far superior, not a little bit superior, not moderately superior, far superior. It outperformed one of the most popular diabetes medications, metformin, by 3-to-1. Is exercise important for blood sugars? You bet it is. Is it more natural than metformin? Does it have nasty side effects like metformin? No, absolutely not. That's the good sore right there. But it's just so amazing to see that something that God gave us that you don't have to pay anything for, that it's a genetic requirement for your body is to move our body, can regulate our blood sugars if we're doing it on a regular basis. So this tells me, I mean, when I look at this, I'm thinking to myself, well, why is anybody on a medication if this is 3 times more effective? Maybe the rare case of a type 1 that just doesn't have any insulin whatsoever might need it, but if they couldn't figure out the cause of it, then yes. But this is our answer. This is a huge answer right here. And so not just exercise, but really the most effective types of exercise. And the best type of exercise is metabolic conditioning. So this is high intensity, short duration exercise, which is scientifically proven to be the most effective type of exercise to get the best results in the shortest amount of time possible. Now, some of you guys may have tried this exercise before. You get it with your Max T3, your resource kit. Most of our patients get that kit. Now we have the digital version. You can do it on your phone, your computer, your iPad, anything that you can log into a browser. You punch in your code there, you have your login. These are 12 to 16 minute workouts that anybody can do. Doesn't matter if you've never worked out before and you have back surgery or hip problems, or if you're an Olympic athlete. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Everybody can do something. And so instead of just telling you guys about it, we're going to do a little bit of a workout here for just a second. Everybody up on your feet for 1 minute here. Can I get the music going here, Caitlin? Oh, here we go, guys. Here's what we're going to do. For 1 minute, we're going to do 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. All you have to do, it's super easy. Just stand up on your feet, and we're going to be running in place as fast as we can for 20 seconds. Then you get a rest, and we're going to do it again. We're going to do it 3 times. So bump that music up real high. 20 seconds, as fast as we can, running in place. Ready, set, go. Here we go. Move those feet. 10 more seconds. All right, and rest. All right, so that was 20 seconds of exercise. We're starting to get our heart rate up. Get 20 seconds rest. And then we're going to go back into our second round. 3 seconds, 2, 1, and we're back in. Here we go. 20 seconds as fast as you can. Move those feet. Five more seconds. And rest. All right. Now you're starting to feel it a little bit. So we've got 10 more seconds. This is going to be our third and final run in place exercise. Give it everything you got here. 2, 1, and we're off. 20 seconds. Guys are doing great. Keep going. 5 more seconds. And time. All right. Give your neighbor a high five. You did great. You did great. Nice job. All right. All right. It's called metabolic conditioning. Surge training or burst training is another name for that exercise. And we actually, when you do surge training, it only takes 12 to 16 minutes. You are burning fat for the next 36 to 72 hours after you do a high intensity workout. So not only does it take as much time, but when you put more effort into that short amount of time, you get longer lasting effects. Better than a 30 to 45 minute low to moderate exercise. So you guys are burning some fat now. And we do this workout, that type of workout, every Saturday morning right out here in the parking lot. If it's raining, we'll come inside here, but we do it outside every Saturday morning. And it looks like somebody got a little crazy up here. There we go. It means you did a good job. You worked hard. That's a good sign. So come work out with us. So every Saturday, there's no sign-up sheet. You just come out here in the parking lot, 8 o'clock. I mean, where else do you get to work out with your doctor? Where else do you get to work out with either your doctor or the team that supports you in your health center? I mean, pretty much nowhere else do you get something like that. But we want you guys to utilize it. So some of you here today, I want you to commit to getting in exercise on a regular basis, 3 to 6 times per week, at least 3 times a week. Can you invest 12 minutes of your time 3 times a week to be healthy? Yeah, I mean, everybody can find 12 minutes. You can do it at your home, but we want to encourage you to come this Saturday at 8. We'll have a great workout. And pretty soon here, we're going to have a big summer kickoff workout where we'll have some smoothies and some prizes, and we'll keep you filled in on when that's coming up too here, probably in a couple weeks. But come this Saturday and join us and make a commitment to getting exercise in on a regular basis. Way better than taking medications. Now it's time for the secret weapon, chiropractic care. How is chiropractic care the secret weapon to battling the blood sugar problem? Well, the spine surrounds and protects all these individual spinal nerves, and it surrounds the brainstem and the spinal cord. And these nerves right here in your mid-back, they branch off and they go right out and into your pancreas where it secretes the insulin. Also, these nerves right up here in the very top part of your neck, they branch off through the vagus nerve, and this also supplies the pancreas. So if you had damage in your spine right now, and it was affecting the nerves going into your pancreas, is that going to affect your blood sugar levels? Could that affect the health, or could that lead to something like diabetes down the road? Absolutely. Now, the other area that I want to talk about, and not only does it go to the pancreas, but these spinal nerves go to every organ, tissue, and cell in your body. The other area that I want to talk about specifically to blood sugars is right up here, the hypothalamus and the lower brainstem area. These are two other areas that play a big role in regulating your blood sugars. So the top bone in your neck, C1, it's also called the atlas bone. It surrounds this lower brainstem area, like right here. So when there's a misalignment, this directly interferes with the communication up and down the brainstem to the rest of the body. And this controls a lot of other things. Not only blood sugar, blood pressure, mood, sleep, concentration, hormones, even digestion gets regulated right up here at the top. But specifically, if your top bone or these upper cervical bones get misaligned, this is how it impacts your blood sugars. On the flip side of it, when you adjust the cervical spine and get it moving properly and are properly aligning that top bone, that improves the communication, which then in turn is going to directly benefit you and your blood sugar levels. And that's how it can help out a diabetic so much. I have 3 stories that I want to share with you real quick. A year ago, a lady named Carolyn came into the office. She had clogging in her carotid arteries and real bad diabetes. She comes in, she starts getting adjusted. In 60 days, she goes back to her doctor, gets her blood work done and the vascular testing done. Not only is the blood flowing through her left carotid better, but her blood sugar levels improved drastically just from the chiropractic adjustments. That's Carolyn. I got another guy in the office. His name is Willie. He came in because he had back pain and numbness and tingling. Well, not only did his back pain improve 60%, his numbness and tingling is improved by 50%, but he had his blood sugar levels checked, and he hasn't changed his diet. He hasn't changed his exercise program one bit, but he told me and Dr. Tyler at the last re-exam that his blood sugar levels have also suddenly gotten a lot better. And we know that it's from the chiropractic adjustments because his body is signaling better and it's starting to heal better. Now imagine what that would look like if they did start changing their diet and exercising. This is how somebody could absolutely reverse it. Another story I want to share with you is a guy named Mark. He came in because he had horrible neck pain, and he starts getting adjusted, and he told us just about a week ago, he said, I just want to let you guys know that, I haven't done anything else differently besides get adjusted, but I've lost over 10 pounds since I started coming here. And we know that this impacts not only your blood sugar levels, but your hormones, like your thyroid hormone, and like insulin and even leptin. So this is how people can see amazing results from chiropractic care, balancing your blood sugar levels. And that's why I call it your secret weapon, because your central nerve system controls everything. So if you guys are a guest here tonight and you've never had your nerve system checked, well, I want to explain to you what that first appointment looks like and how we check it out. Because you schedule your appointment, you come in, and on the first appointment, we do 4 things. We do a complete health history to see what things that you've done in the past that have brought you to your current health situation. The second thing that we do is we check your posture and your range of motion throughout the spine. So your hips, your shoulders, all the joints in the spine to see how they're moving. And if we find any areas of restriction or subluxation, then we do something really cool. It's called a computerized nerve scan. And this is a scan right here. This painless scan is able to tell us if there's pressure on your nerves causing any pain or any other health issues, blood sugar issues or anything else. If there's damage on those nerves, then the fourth thing we do is we take any necessary structural x-rays. And these x-rays that we take here, they're very different than most x-rays because the way we analyze them, it tells us not only what's been causing the problem, but how long ago it really started developing. And most importantly, it tells us how fast and how much we're going to be able to help you correct it so that we can help you reach the results that you're really looking for. Now, trying to get this type of testing done in a hospital setting is almost impossible to get this complete done altogether. And if you were able to get it done in a hospital setting, it would probably cost you about $1,000 or more, at least actually about $1,800 was the lowest that I've seen if you could try to piece it all together. Our office, we're a big family practice here, and so when you come into our office, you can get the entire evaluation done, and it's only $110. That's our normal fee for the entire whole first evaluation. For any guests that were invited here tonight, just for coming out, we want to bless you guys. And so instead of the normal fee of $110, if you schedule your appointment tonight, it'll just be $40 for that whole first appointment. And we gave you a special sheet, guests here tonight. And the special sheet, it's a little half piece of paper. And if on that half sheet of paper, you'll see, and only the guests have this in their packet right now. If you're a patient, you don't have one of these in there. But all you got to do to reserve your appointment is just put your name and your number on the top left, and then just circle off the best day and the best time to schedule your appointment. We've opened up some special time slots for those of you guys that want to get it checked. And so if you've not had it checked, that's definitely your best next step, and we'll help you do that. We'll have a team member come around, or I'll talk with you before you head out. We can help you schedule time. We'll give you some paperwork. That'll save you some time as well. So you can fill those sheets out for any guests or anybody who's not had their nerve system checked. One other thing that I want to go over here, just kind of a recap here before we head out. Commit to making an improvement. Commit to getting better in at least one area here, if not all these areas. Some of you guys, it's the nutrition. It's the biggest thing. Read your book. If you don't have a book, everything's 10% off tonight. Pick up an extra book. Some of you need to commit to making exercise a priority. At least 3 times a week. You could do at least 3 times a week for 12 minutes a day. In fact, it's only 6 minutes of actual exercise if you do the super fast. And you'll still get great results. 3 to 6 times a week for the Max T3. Commit to consistent supplementation. Some of you, this is the next step for. Getting in on like those power supplements that I just went over, that really will help your blood sugar levels. And that's really, where some of you guys need to turn to in that direction. The other one, commit to taking care of your nerve system through your chiropractic. So if you are a current patient, if you're making your visits, all your scheduled visits on a regular basis, awesome. Keep that up. Keep going with that. Also, your spinal home care exercises. Maybe you're making the visits, but you're not doing the home care the way that you need to. If you are not seeing the results that you want to right now and you're missing that piece, you're selling yourself short, and that's a thing that doesn't even cost you anything to get even better results. If you're off track with your adjustments right now, that's the very first thing, is get back onto a regular schedule to get your nerve system healing your body better, especially if you're dealing with diabetes or blood sugar issues. If you're a guest here tonight and you've never had it checked, that's the first step. That's the only thing on here that you really can't do yourself, is adjust yourself. A lot of chiropractors have tried, but you can't adjust yourself. So get it checked out. That's really the missing link. That's your secret weapon. So maybe some of you, it's one or two. Some of you that want to go all in and you're really serious about, reaching your health goals, go all in and you're doing all 4 of them. So pick which ones you're going to be working on. And everybody got a sheet like this. So at all of our workshops, all of our supplements are discounted. Everything's 10% off tonight. And so I want to go through this real quick because there's a couple of special bundles tonight. And if you look at the top of this sheet here is the 90-day detox bundle. So a lot of you guys are detoxing on a regular basis. So if you want to stock up for the next quarter, you can do the 90-day detox. That'll save you $36 if you want to stock up for a little while. Also, we have 2 blood sugar bundles. The first one is our big blood sugar bundle. This is all 4 of the power supplements. So you got your grass-fed whey protein, your max greens. In fact, I put my max greens in my smoothies along with it a lot. Otherwise, you can just do it separate. Your optimal omega and the max fit, that's the big blood sugar bundle. So if you want to get those all together, that's 15% off, and that'll save you about $24, I think, $20. Then the blood sugar bundle is all of these minus the max greens. So it's the protein, omega, and max fit. That's also a bundle. That's 10% off though if you want to get those all 3 all together. All the other ones are all individual items. Those are all individually 10% off. If finances are an issue right now and you have blood sugar problems and there's one thing that you're thinking about getting, if I'm you, it's this right here. Because this is also a food that incorporates healthy eating along with it. I think this would absolutely have the biggest positive impact on your blood sugar levels and your health if you're thinking about just one supplement. But if you want to save some money and you want to do a bundle, you can get a bigger discount. So for all of you that are current patients, if you have a card on file, the girls will be checking out supplements right up here. Dr. Christie will be checking out some supplements right over here. So we'll have a couple different lines. And if you're a guest and you're picking up supplements tonight, just make sure that you fill out this bottom part so we can get it into your hands and everything can run smoothly. And we do have a limited supply of things, but we have a good amount. We'll do our best. If something runs out, we'll still give you the discount. We'll just pre-order. It'll be in a couple of days. So make sure you fill out these supplement sheets. I know a lot of you guys like to stock up at the workshops. Going back to here, it's time to make a change. Everybody, whether you have diabetes or whether you don't, we all can take a step forward, and that's why we come to these things. So give yourselves a big hand for being here this evening. All right, you guys are free to go.